Okay, hi. So it's Carrie Johnston, and I'm filming today on the traditional territory of Champagne and Ajax First Nations. And my guest today is Martin Lehner, and Martin is in Kwanlin, Whitehorse, in the traditional territory of the Anquichin Council and Kwanlin Dun First Nation. Welcome, Martin.
Hi there.
So, Martin, if you could tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
For sure. My name's Martin Lehner. I've been in the Yukon since 2003. Since 2010, I've owned a business called Tangerine Technology. We're a full service IT service provider. So we deal with computers, networks, printers, Wi-Fi, phone systems, anything technology related you can think of. And we primarily service the private sector. We also have a number of NGOs that are clients, but we're a little bit unique in that we don't generally service the public sector. So we don't do a lot of government work or anything like that. So yeah, that's who we are.
Great. And so, what have you learned about your business model over the last 8 months in the pandemic?
Um, Technology is very much needed, especially in the world right now. Obviously, we had a lot of people who started working from home. That kind of blew up sort of overnight. So there was a lot of needs for that, and obviously a lot of folks, needing to buy laptops and things like that. So certainly the industry we're in is something that's essential and is definitely needed.
Have you changed anything about your business model since the pandemic began, or has it just been like full on?
I mean, we're doing a bit different things, obviously. I mean, setting a lot of people up to work remotely and work from home is not new, but obviously there's a lot more folks that are doing that and needing that now. Um, we always have done remote support, so we've always been a hybrid. I mean, we can always visit a client on site, or we can help them remotely. There are times when helping somebody remotely is faster and quicker to resolve an issue. So, for us, it's always been um, sort of an efficiency thing. Um, Now it's become, like, in a lot of cases, it's become a necessity where we can't go on site somewhere. Somebody's working from home, they don't want any visitors or whatever. So we've certainly been doing more of that. I wouldn't say that's something new per se, but certainly doing a lot more of that lately.
Mm. So, what are you learning about your customer, about Yukoners during this time? What are your observations about the state of technology infrastructure and Yukoners' ability to adapt?
I think we adapt pretty well, to be honest. Yukoners are, I mean, it's part of the nature of living in the north and being away from the metropolitan areas. We innovate and adapt rather quickly. I think a lot of Yukoners who perhaps weren't used to working from home were able to become somewhat functional pretty quickly. So I think that really helped for sure. Um, I think there's been um, a lot of folks have recognized um, how used you get to being at the office and being at your desk and what you have there in front of you, and all of a sudden when you're in a different environment, whether that's your couch or a desk you have at your home, all of a sudden there's things you need and things you don't have at your fingertips. So, but overall, I would say that we adapted pretty well and pretty quickly for sure.
Hmm. You've got a big team to lead there at Tangerine. What are you learning about leadership in a time when there's all these additional sort of pressures and changes?
I mean, a big thing for us, so we're considered critical workers. So that's a little bit different from an essential worker. We actually have more um, quote unquote freedoms than an essential worker does. So, we're actually able to go to work um, if we're not feeling good. We are able to um, enter the territory from outside, let's say from Alberta or from somewhere else where there's isolation requirements, and we actually don't have to isolate. We can go to work. Um, so that's, of course, um, sort of the nice part about that is obviously we can continue to go to work and operate. The downside to that is, of course, you'll have staff that are concerned about each other. Let's say if somebody's been traveling and they return back, I mean, are they infected? Are they not infected? Um, are they sick? Are they not sick? These are things you have to deal with. So, I mean, for us, our team has always been very, very close. Everyone works with each other. Nobody really works in their own little silos. So for us, in our office physically, just being able to have everybody separated enough so that's less of a concern. Making sure that everybody understands and follows all the safety precautions, that's hand sanitizer, masks, all that kind of thing. It's, I don't want to say it's been a challenging thing. I mean, there's obviously concerns around that and all of that. We have a very good team. So, I mean, everybody's cooperating and working with each other and things like that. So that's been really great. But definitely, that there is those questions. I mean, if, it looks like somebody's sick, do you send them home? If they traveled outside of the BC bubble, they're technically allowed to be back in the office. Is that okay? Do you wait a few days? Do you make them wait the 2 weeks? It is a question for sure.
Hmm. I think that goes down to, how critical the work is that they're doing, and there's a lot of risk analysis that goes into those things. And, ultimately it's just really about keeping Yukoners, everybody, the whole community, as safe as we can, and make the best decisions that you can with the information you've got.
Yep, for
Yeah,
sure.
good. What if, how are you thinking about your business differently going forward?
Um, there's a lot more. I mean, in terms of what we do and how we operate, like I said, we're doing a lot more remote support for sure, but that's nothing new per se. It's just a bit of a change of on how we're on how we're delivering our service, I guess. But not something we weren't doing beforehand per se. Certainly, one thing we have to consider is all these people who are now working outside of the offices. I mean, there's huge security risks and implications for that. So, thinking about that and how do we keep all this data secure, and um, how do we keep those clients who are in regulated environments, um, how we keep them at a position where they're meeting the regulatory requirements and things like that. That's certainly something we've had to look at and evaluate and adjust over the months.
Hmm. Have you picked up any sort of new skills or anything like that that are sort of serving you well, or that you're sort of looking, to advance your business with?
Um, I'm not sure if I'd say specifically advancing the business. We all of our techs, myself included, we all have a range of certifications and skills, and they vary. So as a team, we work really well together with those. Um, what I would say is certainly, I mean, we've had a lot of clients. I mean, we have clients who are in the tourism sector who obviously, I would say, are among the hardest hit here in the Yukon in terms of the economy. We have clients who literally had to shut their doors and go work from home from literally one day to the next. And working with working under that stress level, I guess, has been one skill that certainly has been heightened, I guess, just because a lot of clients, they're stressed. I mean, especially if these are business owners. I mean, especially if they're in the tourism sector. I mean, they were doing just fine, and then a few days later, they're not doing very fine. So uh, there's certainly heightened stress all around for sure, and managing that and being able to manage expectations and things like that. I mean, there was a point in time where we went quite a few weeks without being able to buy a webcam. There just weren't any, because basically the entire world was buying webcams because everybody needed to hop on Zoom and do those kinds of things. So somebody needs a webcam and we can't buy one. How do you manage that expectation? Because normally we can. Normally it's not a problem to provide everybody a webcam. It's a little bit better these days, but early on, yeah, I mean, that's just one example, but certainly it's a lot of stress, definitely dealing with that.
Mm. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to remember what it was like back in March and April as all of this was really unfolding and the extent of it as we were responding as businesses. It seems like forever ago, even though it was this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was, everything happened really fast, and yeah, seems like a long time ago for sure.
Mm. What advice do you have for emerging entrepreneurs, whether that's in tech or just in general?
I mean, at this point in time, obviously we've got an economy that's not doing so well. I mean, if you want to be an entrepreneur in any kind of sector related to travel, I won't say there isn't any opportunity whatsoever, because that's not true. I mean, there always is for sure. Um, but certainly, I would say evaluate, what the economy and what the industry looks like at the moment. Um, these may be things you want to hold off on or wait a little bit or not. The biggest thing is having a solid plan. There's things that are beyond your ability to uh, control, and how you adapt to that and how you adjust is in a lot of cases what makes or breaks a business. So being able to handle that for sure. That's one of the big things.
What do you think the sort of state of play looks like right now in the territory for tech startups or for tech companies? Like, what's working well or what could be improved to sort of build that sector of the economy for the Yukon?
I mean, as a general statement, it's not really COVID specific in this regard, but I mean, we have some foundational issues that I think as a territory we really need to look at. I mean, at the moment, for all intents and purposes, we have a monopoly internet service provider. Um, we have seen now we're going to have some unlimited internet options. That's basically the first time we've seen that, at least in recent years. The cost is still arguably a bit prohibitive, particularly on the business side. Honestly, from my chair, we really need some competition in that space. Um, Hopefully, we'll see that soon. I mean, Starlink from SpaceX will hopefully give us some of that. Um, training's a huge one. Training and education. We have nowhere locally where we can train a tech. Like, I can't send a tech to go learn anything essentially. I mean, there's very little offered at our college, which is now a university. I can't send somebody somewhere to take a cabling course for a day. So that's a huge hurdle. I know access to venture capital money for startups has been a long-standing issue. That's a little bit different from us. We're certainly not in that position, but I know that's an issue. So there is definitely a lot that we can do to promote the industry. Government of Yukon has been saying for many years this is an industry that they really want to push, and they really want to see growth in. So, hopefully we can address some of those things soon, and that will definitely help for sure.
Well, there's certainly huge infrastructure challenges and a topic of conversation since I moved to the territory for sure, and and do present some real challenges. But I think there are some interesting technologies on the horizon that might open opportunities, especially in rural Yukon as well, where there's a lot of opportunity to live where we do.
Yep, for sure, absolutely, and I think having access to high quality, fast internet that is affordable is one of those big things. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm. Um, so during all of the crazy, what was sort of some of the stuff that kind of kept you grounded as you were kind of going through? Like, what's your wellness practice as an entrepreneur?
It's a good question. We I mean, we were extremely busy for actually quite a while. We had various clients choosing to go work from home. We had clients who had to go work from home from one day to the next. Um, when I look back at the amount of equipment and things like licensing and hardware and all the things we were buying, procuring for clients, it was basically nonstop. I'm not sure I had a lot of time to think about being grounded. We just kept playing along, and that was it. And it basically hasn't stopped. I mean, obviously, it's not the same at this moment anymore, but yeah, I mean, we just kept going and just focused on what was in front of us and who we had to help at that particular time, and kept on going.
Part of my career, I've been doing sort of these inaction reviews and helping organizations reflect on the past 8 months and sort of, walking everybody back down memory lane to even try to remember what March and April were like, and that frenzy. And it was hard for us to all keep our heads above water. There was so much going on. Yeah. And I can't imagine for critical service like you guys, I imagine you were doing a lot of counseling work with clients as well, as they were sort of just even trying to figure out how to get things back on track.
Yeah, no, for sure. Trying to, you know, we'd have lots of questions from clients. Okay, so all the staff are going to work from home. How do we do that? Okay, there's a lot to that. What do you have to do? What do you not have to do? So, no, for sure, it was a lot of working with the individuals who had to make those decisions and choices. So, yeah, for sure.
Mhm. Well, I imagine a lot of businesses are really grateful to the work that your team did to kind of get them through that.
Hoping so, yes. I mean, we did everything we could. So again, it's frustrating when, I mean, again, normally I can buy a webcam with a few days notice and have it up here, and then I can't get one for 5 weeks or whatever it is. So those are certainly frustrating. I'm sure they're frustrating for everybody. But yeah, I think on a whole, we were able to pull a lot of things off, which was great.
Things that are simple to say and then impossible to do.
Yeah.
Did you have any worldview shifts, like, where you're really looking at life or the world or your business differently than you did before?
I mean, there's always been an understanding of this. I mean, Yukon's a very public sector heavy region. I mean, this has always been known, but um, we have offices outside of the Yukon as well. So we have an office on Vancouver Island in Nanaimo. We also do some work in Alberta. So we are there a few times a year as well for a few clients. And I would say one of the things that, I mean, again, I already knew this, but maybe not to this extent, and that's how insulated we are here in the Yukon to external factors. I mean, really outside of the tourism sector, um, and some of the businesses around that. I mean, we'll say, restaurants, because they can't have the same capacity like they used to, and sectors like that for sure. But outside of that, I mean, most of us fared fairly well, especially as you compare to elsewhere in Canada. I mean, when you go to Vancouver Island, it's a completely different story. Um, like there's a lot of shattered economies across from the west coast to the east coast. You look in Alberta again. We have a number of clients in Alberta. I mean, Alberta just got hammered really hard, and they still are. BC's faring a little bit better. Vancouver Island specifically has picked up a little bit, but I mean, when you consider what we had to go through here in the Yukon, and also, I mean, a lot of the programs that we had from uh, the Department of Economic Development, and some of the supports that they had. I mean, they're one of the first programs they had was the $30,000 a month, up to $30,000 a month, grants for basic operating expenses, rents, and things like that if you were shut down. Then they introduced 14-day paid sick leave for any staff that were sick that didn't have any sick days left. I mean, these were great programs, and I realized, like, for some folks, that's it helps. It's not enough, and I mean, certainly recognize that. But when you look in some of the other jurisdictions, they don't have that level of support. So between that and also, again, between having a bit of an insulated economy, that I think we fared a lot better than anyone else. And again, I mean, that's something I've known for a long time. I mean, being public sector heavy, your economy is less manipulated by external factors. But really, through this, you really see that as being true.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, what are some of your values for reopening? I mean, we've kind of been in this reopening phase for a long time, and I guess we're really in the new normal, but we are talking about sort of rebuilding some of these shattered economies and here, so what's your hope for that rebuilding?
Um, I mean, the biggest, I guess, value I have, like, in the Yukon economy. I mean, there's really, because of geographically where we are and because of our size and a lot of other factors, um, there's the real risk of this virus is it being imported into our region, right? Um, so it's one of those things where it'd be great to certainly have our borders open, have, whomever in, whether it's someone from Alberta, someone from Manitoba, wherever. Um, but on the flip side to that is, what's the risk to that if somebody imports the virus and spreads it within a community, let's say a rural community or even here in Whitehorse? I mean, we do have limited medical facilities. I mean, we have hospitals. Obviously, we have 3 hospitals in the Yukon, but I mean, we're not equipped for a mass pandemic scenario, right? I mean, if 1,000 people get this virus within a week, are we prepared to handle that? You know, that's a good question. What is the threshold? So, the biggest, I guess, value I place on reopening the economy is, we have to mitigate that risk from the outside. Internally, if we mitigate the risk externally in a good way, um, then internally, I mean, we can basically open up our economy. There is no reason why you can't go to Main Street in Whitehorse and get a haircut, right? There's no reason why the kids can't go to school. There's no reason why the kids can't go to school full days. Um, Again, but we have to make sure we're mitigating that external risk and that chance of the virus being imported. And there's a number of ways that can be done. But yeah, that would be my biggest thing for reopening the Yukon economy as a whole. I mean, in terms of industries like the tourism sector and things like that, I mean, I don't know when a Condor flight's going to show up again. I have no idea. Um, those are kind of factors we don't have a lot of control over. Um, when will the world start to travel again for leisure? I don't know. Um, Something we have to watch and something we have to address and look at as it happens. But I'm not sure there's a lot there that we can influence.
Yeah, and I guess because this interview will go live a little bit of time from now in a couple weeks for Yukon Innovation Week, so I guess it's mindful to sort of say, like, Canada is really just on the edge of its second wave right now, or we've talked about entering in that second wave, and we're starting to see the results of Thanksgiving celebrations and things like that, especially in British Columbia. I know they were talking about that this week, and and everything that we are feeling right now is the result of actions from a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And yeah, there is this balance between openness and, and mitigating risk. And, we can have those freedoms here if we're wise as Yukoners to, continue to follow the safe six and maintain social distance and self-isolate when you return from other jurisdictions, unless you're, absolutely essential in the work that you're doing. Um, as you were talking about with critical workers there. Um, what is the one area of the safe six that you're struggling with the most, personally and
So
professionally?
for me, yeah, for me specifically, it's going to be the isolation part. I do regularly go down to Vancouver Island, um, to our office there. So I know that's in the travel bubble. Nonetheless, though, Vancouver Island's very lucky. They haven't had a lot of cases. Last time I looked, it was 251, I believe. So they haven't had a lot of cases in general, which is nice. That being said, and even though there isn't a self-isolation requirement, it's still one of those things when you return back. I mean, you don't really want to go out everywhere. I realize you can, but you really don't want to. I was in Alberta quite a few weeks ago, and had returned, and kind of same thing, right? So in that sense, or in that case, I was supposed to self-isolate, but because I'm a critical worker, I don't have to. I'm allowed to go to work. Luckily, the way our office is structured, I can go to work and not have to interact physically with any of the other staff, and they don't have to enter my space. I don't have to enter theirs. So I was able to do that without a lot of risk. But certainly, that's the one I struggle with the most, just because, I mean, I don't want to get anybody sick. That's certainly not something I want to do. Um, you know, and I realize you can be pre-symptomatic or asymptomatic, or think you have a cold or whatever, but it's also one of those things where, do I don't feel sick, so why would I not go to work? Right? Just because we're not used to that. We've never really had a situation where, that would be a reason to stay home, because you were in an area where other people were sick. But if you're not sick, why would you stay home, right? So that's new, obviously, for all of us. But that's probably the one I personally struggle with the most, just because, the nature of our business and what we do, like, I have to travel. It's not really an option. So, yeah.
These are complicated things to figure out for us, eh? Like there's a lot of risk analysis, and there's a lot of, changing patterns of behavior to try to be making the best decisions we can with what we've got.
Yep, for sure.
Any songs, podcasts, books, or anything like that that are kind of getting you through and motivating you? Movies?
I actually know all of these. I actually thought about this for a bit, and not really, because I haven't had a lot of time lately. I mean, between travel and doing, um, the increased workload that we've had, um, dealing with some staff that had been off sick. None of them were sick with the virus, but sick with colds, and you don't know, so they can't come to work. So the rest of us have to, you know, pitch in a little more and things like that. I honestly haven't had a ton of time. It's been, yeah, not a ton of personal time lately. So not really anything specific, but yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, I think that's life in the age of COVID, right? Yeah, picking up and moving on with the best you can.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then of course, I mean, there's the usual other stuff that non-pandemic related that of course happens to all of us. And you add that on top, and yeah, it eats a lot of time.
It does. Hey, thanks so much for your time today. It's been great.
No problem. Thanks.
Bye.
See ya.